Dominic, what a surprise takedown, huh?
Oh, yeah! I mean, Shane can do...
In the world of professional wrestling, it's not just about who you are, but who you align yourself with. The right faction can elevate a wrestler to new heights, giving them the spotlight, camaraderie, and power they need to make a lasting impact on the industry. Throughout WWE's storied history, there have been countless factions that defined eras, from the rebellious NWO to the dominant Evolution, and even the eerie and powerful Wyatt family. But did you know there were several wrestlers who almost joined these legendary groups? In this video, we'll explore 10 wrestlers who could have been part of some of WWE's most iconic factions. Baron Corbin and Luchasaurus with the Wyatt family. When you think of the Wyatt family, names like Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper, and Eric Rowan immediately come to mind. The group was known for its eerie, swamp-inspired promos, psychological mind games, and dominant presence. However, two completely unexpected names almost joined the ranks of this terrifying family: Baron Corbin and Luchasaurus, then known as Luchasaurus from AEW. It may sound wild, but WWE actually filmed backstage promos featuring these two, alongside Bray Wyatt, that were never released. The idea was to position Corbin, who was still struggling to find his identity at the time, as a quiet powerhouse under Bray's command. This would have been a drastic departure from his lone wolf persona, instead presenting him as a loyal follower of Wyatt. As for Luchasaurus, he revealed in an interview that he was also considered for the group, but his injuries derailed that potential. 9. In 2005, WWE had an interesting, though ultimately abandoned, plan for a new trio featuring the iconic Undertaker and Kane, two of the most dominant forces in WWE history. WWE pitched the idea of Matt Morgan becoming the third member, with a gimmick rooted in biblical references. He would have portrayed a character named Abel Bell, a clear nod to the story of Cain and Abel. Morgan's debut was to include a mask, blending the supernatural mystique of the Brothers of Destruction with a fresh, new face. However, just as things were about to take off, Vince McMahon pulled the plug on the idea. Early sketches and storyboards had already been approved, but McMahon had a change of heart. Morgan, ultimately repackaged with a stuttering gimmick, never entered the faction. While it may have been a thrilling concept at first, it's easy to see why McMahon pulled back. The idea of adding a third wheel to Undertaker and Kane's already iconic duo was like adding a third Mario brother. It's hard to replicate that original dynamic. 8. Chyna with the NWO. Before Chyna became a trailblazer for women's wrestling as part of DX, she was almost set to become the first ever female member of the infamous New World Order, NWO, in WCW. In her autobiography, Chyna revealed that WCW reached out to her with serious interest in bringing her in as the first female member of the group. With her striking size, strength, and look, she seemed like a perfect fit to add to the dominant faction that included Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. At the time, Chyna was already making waves in the independent circuit and was training to be a wrestler. However, she ultimately turned down the offer to join the NWO, choosing instead to join WWE, where she debuted as Triple H's silent bodyguard. Within a year, she had redefined the role of women in wrestling by joining DX, where she would go on to become one of the most groundbreaking figures in the industry. 7th, Dan Severn with the Ministry of Darkness. Known for his legitimate credentials as an MMA champion, Dan Severn was a feared competitor in the ring. WWE saw potential in him and approached him with an intriguing but bizarre idea: join the Ministry of Darkness. This faction, led by The Undertaker, was rooted in supernatural and satanic imagery, featuring creepy druids and cult-like followers. Vince McMahon's idea for Severn was to have him shave 666 into his forehead and embrace the ministry's devil-worshipping, occultish persona. Severn, who came from a small town in Michigan, and had real-world business sponsors, laughed at the suggestion and politely declined. He later mentioned in interviews that there were certain things he just wouldn't do for a paycheck, and this was one of them. It was a wise decision for Seven. While the ministry helped shape The Undertaker's supernatural evolution, Seven's grounded, serious nature would have felt completely out of place among the gimmicks of druids and satanic worshippers. Had he joined, he may have become the first man to be released for being too normal. 6. Kaitlyn with the Divas of Doom. In 2011, WWE had big plans to expand the Divas of Doom, a faction formed by Beth Phoenix and Natalya, who sought to break away from the Barbie doll image of women's wrestling. The duo, known for their strength and athleticism, were aiming to bring a more serious edge to the WWE women's division. WWE's initial idea was to bring in Kaitlyn to join the group. A segment was even filmed for SmackDown, where Kaitlyn would turn heel and align herself with Beth and Natalya. However, the segment was mysteriously cut before it ever aired, and Kaitlyn continued her career as a babyface. Kaitlyn later went on to become the Divas champion, while the Divas of Doom faded into obscurity. 5. Christopher Daniels with The Brood. The Brood, with its dark, vampire-inspired gimmicks, became one of WWE's most memorable factions of the late 1990s. The group, consisting of Edge, Gangrel, and Christian, had a mysterious aura that captivated fans. However, before Christian was chosen as the third member, WWE originally planned to bring in Christopher Daniels. Daniels, known for his great work ethic and striking appearance, was a natural fit for the vampire mystique of the Brood. However, Edge went to bat for Christian, citing their personal chemistry and history together. As a result, Daniels was replaced by Christian, and he went on to find greater success in Ring of Honor, TNA, and later AEW. This switch was likely for the best. Edge and Christian became one of the greatest tag teams of all time, and had Daniels joined the group, it may have never led to the iconic rivalry and partnership they developed. 4. Hulk Hogan with the Bullet Club. In 2017, as the Bullet Club was becoming the hottest faction in wrestling, Hulk Hogan expressed interest in joining their ranks. According to Cody Rhodes, Hogan reached out and showed a real desire to become part of the rebellious group. New Japan Pro Wrestling even considered it, but was put off when Hogan reportedly asked for an astronomical appearance fee, around $75,000 for just one show. The Bullet Club, built on the backs of fresh, new faces like Prince Devitt, Finn Balor, Kenny Omega, and Jay White, was designed to be a group of rebels who didn't conform to the old guard. Hogan, with his roots deeply embedded in the 80s and 90s, didn't quite fit the mould. He was an icon looking for one last payday, and that's not what the Bullet Club was about. 3. Test and Val Venis with DX. After Shawn Michaels left DX in 1998, WWE entertained the idea of adding new blood to the group. Test and Val Venis were both considered as potential members, and Vince Russo even compared Test to a young Kevin Nash. Venis, with his edgy adult film star gimmick, had the attitude that seemed to fit in with the rebellious nature of DX. However, Triple H and the other members didn't feel the chemistry with either wrestler. They knew DX had a certain energy that had to remain intact, and forcing new members in could disrupt that vibe. They decided to keep X-Pac, Road Dogg, and Billy Gunn in the group, and the rest is history. 2. Big E with the Shield. Before Big E became one of the most beloved figures in WWE as part of the New Day, he was almost a member of the Shield. When WWE was first putting together the trio in 2012, Big E's name was seriously considered, along with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose. However, WWE decided to pivot and gave Big E his own path, pairing him with Dolph Ziggler as a bodyguard instead. Meanwhile, The Shield went on to become one of the most dominant factions of the modern era, reshaping WWE's future main event scene. 1. Samoa Joe with Evolution. In what may be the most surprising name on this list, Samoa Joe was reportedly considered for Evolution before the final lineup of Triple H, Ric Flair, Randy Orton, and Batista was decided. According to rumours from early 2003, Triple H had scouted Joe and thought he had the perfect blend of intensity and size to join the group. But at the time, Joe was heavily involved with ROH and TNA, and WWE decided to go with Batista instead. While Joe would eventually find success in WWE years later, it's interesting to imagine him in a suit, standing alongside Flair and Triple H as Evolution's enforcer.